All right, my super world history peeps, we are here on day 3 talking about the Russian Revolution. I had told you previously that Russia was not a major player in the war, multiple reasons why. They were weak from the Russo Japanese war. So here they are fighting Japan over Manchuria and Korea in 1905. They lost. There was a lot of social inequity within Russia. So you have basically two social classes, the rich and the poor need to rise up and become the giant, which they are going to do. And then the last one is the Tsar at this time is Nicholas II, and he takes control of the military, even though he is ill equipped to run it. Not only is the leadership poor, but the military doesn't have a lot because Russian manufacturing can't keep up. And so there's a shortage of weapons. And it says that the Russians had to actually fight with broomsticks. And if they wanted a rifle, they had to wait till one of their fallen soldiers died and then take his rifle. So very ill equipped, millions of deaths, wounded and captured soldiers. And so by 1917, I mean, they're just done. And then they have to almost turn their attention back to the home front. Here's our buddy, Tsar Nicholas II. So take it in, take it in. He's from the Romanov family. Now, while he is on the battlefield, maintaining and manning the troops, this guy steps in. Take a look at that face. And this, I'm sure you've heard it before, Rasputin. There's a dance on Just Dance, rah rah Rasputin. No, yeah, I'd sing it for you, but oof. If we were in class, I might be tempted to play that and we could all just dance together. Ooh, that'd be so much fun. But anyway, back to the story here. He was this mystic presence. You know, he had a way with the other world. And Tsar Nicholas II's wife, Alexandra, really admired him and believed everything that he was saying. So it's like, while husband Nick is on the battlefield, this guy swoops in and starts making decisions. And Nicholas's posse seeing this, and like, we gotta get rid of this guy. And so later on, 1916, they end up assassinating him, but it was almost too late for Nicholas because he's lost a lot of support at this time. And so the chaos that's happening is here. You've got working women that are working 12-hour days and they still don't have enough food. Okay? So they start a strike in St. Petersburg, which is now known as Petrograd. So name change. And they're ticked because they're working 12-hour days. They don't have enough food, and the food that's there, prices have been raised. And so they're ready to revolt. And so 10,000 women start marching through the city, yelling, "Peace and bread, and down with autocracy." Autocracy being like one powerful ruler. And so they're calling for strikes and the shutdown of every single factory. And you see, it's so simple what people want. They want peace and bread. And that's it. And it sounds like they want a voice. You know, our chant today, what would our chant today be if we're in the streets? It would be like toilet paper and hand sanitizer. I don't know. Clorox wipes. But it's so simple what people want. And so Alexandra, who is Nicholas's wife, gets a hold of Nick on the battlefield and said, "Listen, this is a hooligan movement. If the weather were very cold, they would probably stay at home." And so Nicholas needs to do something about it because wife is not happy. And so, unfortunately, and remember, to be a good ruler, you want to have the military backing you, right? The soldiers were actually joining the side of the women, so it made it very difficult for Nicholas because they would not fire on the crowd. They actually agreed with the protesters. Okay, so you can kind of see Nicholas's reign going downhill, right? So you've got this legislative body in Russia called the Duma, and they get together and they're saying, hey, Nick, you got to step down. And so he does. And that ends up 300 years of Romanov rule has done. It's ended. And so you've got this new leader step in. He's going to set up like a temporary government, Krasinski. That's so not right. Isn't Krasinski like John Krasinski of The Office? Where'd that come from? I think I just watched a YouTube video on him yesterday. But this guy, he sets up this leadership, this temporary government, okay? And he wants Russia to kick butt in World War One still. So he's like urging all the Russians to go back and enter the war full force. But you got to understand, Russia wasn't in the position to do that because the Russians are hungry. You can't send starving people into the battlefield. They're not going to fight well. And so this group rises up, and this collective body is known as the Soviets. Okay, and it's a working class group. Ooh, they're becoming the giant. And one of the most popular Soviet groups was called the Bolsheviks. Okay, there's our buddy Vladimir Lenin right there. Ooh, there he is. Okay. And he is like all in agreement that there has to be a violent revolution. At this point, we have to have violence in order to destroy this capitalistic way. Remember, capitalism is when you own property. You can own your house, you can own a business, you can own land, you can own a cow if you want to. Okay? And so he's going to use the soldiers and the workers and the peasants to overthrow this government. Okay? And he's going to have all these promises. And he's going to say, listen, we're going to get out of World War One. We're going to redistribute land to all the peasants so it's equal. And the Soviets are going to control this government. Okay? Oh, it sounds like equality. It sounds like communism is entering. Okay? So he's saying peace, land, bread, and worker control of production and all power to the Soviets, and the Soviets are the working class. And so what he does is he takes his old posse. We've grown from 50,000 to 240,000, and they seize the Winter Palace, and it falls without bloodshed. Hey guys, hang on. I've got another phone call. All right, I am back. So they storm this palace. It falls without bloodshed, and they rename themselves the Communists. Okay. Now at this point, you got to remember, Lenin is like, hey, I'm going to give you a peace. I'm going to give you a peace. And he knew the only way to do that is to cede some land. And so he ended up giving this area to Germany and then this region to Austria-Hungary. So they did lose some land in this treaty. So that wasn't a popular decision from him. But it had to be done if they wanted peace. And so what that's going to lay way for is a civil war, the Russian Revolution, and you're going to have the Red and the White Army. So the Red are going to be communists, and the White are going to be anti-communists. And so they're going to favor Tsar Nicholas II. Now, the Red Army is going to be victorious, and they even gain more land. They gain land in the Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. That's a fun one to say, Azerbaijan. So victory, right? And there's no more autocracy. So the Tsar is gone. And so what he ends up doing, because you got to remember, Tsar Nicholas is now in exile and has been in exile after they asked him to step down. And the Red Army and Nicholas and Vladimir Lenin end up finding him and his family and shooting them in the basement. So they found their entire family in the basement of the house that they were staying in, shoot the entire family, shot the entire family, and then burn their bodies in a nearby mine. So that rule is definitely over. Okay. And so then what starts next is this Red Terror. And the Red Police, known as the Cheka, they're going to eliminate anybody who's opposed to the communist regime, anybody. So you're looking at 8,500 people were executed in this Red Terror. And I thought this was interesting. This was not in your book, but he had a hanging order and from a group called the kulaks. And they were like the bourgeoisie, the upper class of the peasants that owned land. Now remember, in communism, you don't own anything. The government owns it all. And these kulaks didn't want to give up their land to the government. So now they're a threat. And so this is what he wrote in this order. It says, comrades, the kulak uprising in your 5 districts must be crushed without pity. You must make example of these people. Number 1, hang, and I mean hang publicly so that people can see it. At least 100 kulaks, rich and known bloodsuckers. Publish their names, number 2. Number 3, seize all their grain. Number 4, single out the hostages per my instructions in yesterday's telegram. Do this so that for miles around, people see it all, understand it, tremble, and tell themselves that we are killing the bloodthirsty kulaks and that we will continue to do so. Yours, Lenin. P.S. Find tougher people. Crazy, huh? Communism has now entered Russia. So that is our Russian Revolution and how it came to be. Lesson 2, we were talking about World War I, and I basically said that was the end of World War I. Just so you know, FYI, the Allied powers did win, okay? We entered the war in April of 1917, and the war was officially over in November of 1918. So like I said in lesson 2, we were not in the war very long. We were in it at the end. And we gave a huge psychological morale boost to the Allied troops with us entering. We do not have time to go over the end of the war. That is lesson 4 in this chapter. If you would like to read through it, you can, but you are going to get this lesson in U.S. history. And so you'll hear key terms like the Treaty of Versailles, League of Nations, Wilson's 14 points. But from a world history standpoint, I do want you to look at this map. It's grainy. Wow, really poor quality. But we had those big empires, right? We had the German Empire, the Austrian-Hungary Empire. We had the Ottoman Empire, and it has dissolved, and new countries are created. So that's the takeaway that I need you to get from the end of World War I, is that the empires broke up and new countries have been formed. This is just more towards the end. Let me see what else. Treaty of Versailles. And this is the other big takeaway for world history that I need you to get, is that Germany was blamed for the war, and they ended up being ordered to pay $33 billion in war reparations. And Germany's not going to be able to pay that back. And this hatred over the Allies is going to give rise to World War II, because Hitler is going to come in and say, listen, Germany, you screwed up. You never should have agreed to the terms of the treaty, and you never should have agreed to pay $33 billion. We can't pay it. We're going broke. And the country is going to be in financial ruin for many, many years. And the Allies are going to want to punish Germany. But instead of preventing another world war, the terms to the Treaty of Versailles are going to lay the foundation for World War II. Okay? All right, but if you want to read through the specifics at the ending of the war, you can read through the rest of my sway. Here's hopefully another better map. Yes, empires are gone. Countries have been formed. But take it in, take it in. All right, my super peeps. That is all I've got for now, and we will chat later.